What would you do if three broken, abandoned boys showed up at your door in the rain, and you were the only person who could save them? Let's go to the story. In the forgotten edges of a quiet Alabama town, where streetlights flickered like tired eyes and porches sagged beneath decades of storms, there stood an old white-painted house on Maple Ridge Lane. The paint peeled in strips like curled paper, the windows fogged from age, and the porch groaned under the weight of memories no one ever bothered to remember. Inside that weary old home lived Miss Evelyn Harper, a gentle 45-year-old black widow who moved like a woman carrying two lifetimes of grief. She had lost her husband, Ben, to cancer, slow, cruel, unforgiving cancer, one that drained their savings and left her with nothing but a cracked wedding ring and a silence she learned to live with. Evelyn worked at Mason's diner, washing dishes until her fingers wrinkled and cracked from hot water. She was the kind of woman who left biscuits on the back steps for stray cats and slipped sandwiches into the hands of homeless veterans without ever expecting a thank you. The kind of woman who prayed softly at night not for herself, but for strangers she knew would never pray for their own souls. She didn't have much, but she gave everything. The night everything changed. One cold, rainy October morning, just after dawn, Evelyn opened her creaking screen door to toss out the trash and froze. There, huddled beside the garbage bins under a rain-soaked blanket, were three little boys, barefoot, shaking, faces pale with hunger, clothes clinging to their small frames like wet paper. Not one of them looked older than 12. They didn't speak, but their eyes told stories no child should ever have to live through. Evelyn didn't ask who they were. She didn't ask where they came from. She didn't ask who hurt them. The only words she said were, "When was the last time you ate, baby?" And just like that, her quiet, lonely house stopped being silent. The boys. The oldest was Caleb, about 11, tall for his age, a cracked front tooth, bruised knuckles that spoke louder than his voice. He stood in front of his brothers like a shield, even though his thin arms trembled. Next was Ethan, maybe 9, quiet, watchful. His eyes darted around as if the world was a threat waiting to strike again. Trauma clung to him like a shadow. And then there was little Noah, 6 years old and heartbreakingly small. He sucked his thumb and didn't speak a single word for months. They were three brothers bound not just by blood, but by bruises, fear, and abandonment. Their mother was gone. Their father, no one asked anymore. CPS had failed them. The streets had swallowed them whole. But Evelyn Harper, she was built differently. She didn't see broken boys. She saw sons, building a family out of RUNS. Evelyn gave up her own bedroom so they could sleep in the warmest room in the house. She stretched soup with water, patched jeans with thrift store scraps, and worked extra hours just to buy second-hand shoes. Neighbors whispered behind curtains, "Why she keepin' them white boys? That ain't her problem." But Evelyn would lift her chin, eyes steady, and reply, "Children don't choose their skin. They just choose who makes them feel safe." Slowly, painfully, beautifully, the boys learned to breathe again. Caleb stopped clenching his fists long enough to help Evelyn carry groceries. Ethan learned to laugh again, quietly at first, then fully. And Noah, the silent one, began following Evelyn everywhere, mimicking her humming, resting his head on her shoulder when she read scripture on Sunday mornings. Healing didn't come overnight, but it came when the world tried to break them again. One summer night, when Caleb was 15, he came home bloodied. A man outside the store had spit a racial slur in Evelyn's direction. Caleb snapped. He protected the only mother he ever knew, the only way the streets had taught him. Evelyn didn't yell. She didn't scold. She just washed his bruised knuckles gently and whispered, "Hate is loud, baby, but love fights louder." They grew up, but they never let go of her. By the time Noah was 16, Evelyn's health had begun to decline. Diabetes, arthritis, exhaustion that weighed more than bones should carry. But the boys, now young men, took care of her. They worked small jobs, fixed the porch, repaired her roof, paid electric bills when she couldn't. Then one by one, they left the nest. Caleb enlisted in the army. Ethan moved to Chicago for construction work. Noah, quiet, brilliant Noah, won a scholarship and became the first in their family to attend college. On the day he left, Evelyn packed 3 sandwiches, hugged him like she was holding together the world, and said, "Noah Harper, I don't care where you go. You are mine. And I love you always." The day her world fell apart. Years passed. Calls came less often. Life got busy. But love never faded. Then it happened. One afternoon, while picking up her diabetes medicine at Brooks Pharmacy, a wealthy, well-connected white businessman collapsed outside the doors. Minutes later, he was dead. Toxicology found fentanyl in his system. Security footage showed Evelyn near him. The pharmacist claimed pills were missing. There was no evidence, no fingerprints, no motive. But there was an easy story to tell. A poor elderly black woman. A rich white man dead. Someone to blame. They arrested her on the spot. The trial. The courtroom was cold enough to choke breath. Evelyn sat alone. Her public defender barely looked up. No neighbors came. No boys came. It felt like the world had forgotten she existed. The prosecutor called her a thief, a liar, a woman with nothing to lose. And when the verdict came back guilty, Evelyn didn't cry. She bowed her head and whispered, "Lord, hold my boys wherever they are." When the woman who raised them was falsely accused and facing life in prison, would her sons return, or would she be forced to face the world alone? Day, when the impossible happened. The judge lifted the gavel. Life in prison. Possibly death. Her future ended with a single swing. But just as the gavel was about to fall, a voice cut through the room. "Your Honor, if I may." Gasps. Whispers. A tall man stepped forward in a tailored navy suit. Trim beard. Eyes shining with fury, grief, and love. He spoke clearly. "My name is Noah Harper. And she didn't do this." The judge narrowed her eyes. "And who exactly are you to speak?" Noah stepped closer. "I'm the boy she found half dead behind a dumpster. The boy she taught to read. The boy she held during my seizures. I'm the son she didn't give birth to, but the son she raised with her whole soul." Then he lifted a flash drive. "And I have proof. The truth." Security footage from a business across the street, far clearer than the grainy video used in court, showed the real culprit. The pharmacist's nephew, slipping something into the victim's drink long before Evelyn even arrived. The courtroom went silent. The judge called a recess. When she returned, everything changed. Charges dropped. Case dismissed. Applause. Tears. But Evelyn didn't move until Noah, now a successful criminal defense attorney, ran to her, dropped to his knees, and grabbed her trembling hands. He whispered through tears, "Mama, you didn't think I forgot you, did you? Home again." That night, reporters swarmed her lawn. Neighbors apologized. Old friends brought casseroles they hadn't offered in years. But Evelyn didn't care about any of that. She just wanted her porch swing. And her boys. Within days, Caleb flew in wearing his army uniform. Ethan arrived from Chicago still in work boots. And just like that, her kitchen was full again. She made cornbread. They washed dishes. They laughed, argued, teased, just like the old days. And later, when Noah stepped outside for air, Evelyn followed. Her voice cracked. "You saved my life today, Noah." He shook his head. "No, Mama. You saved mine 25 years ago. Today, I finally gave a little back." The truth of love. Sometimes love doesn't come wrapped in matching skin tones. Sometimes family isn't defined by blood, but by the people who show up when it matters most. And sometimes, miracles come in the shape of 3 broken boys and one woman with a heart big enough to hold them all. If you had one chance to repay the person who gave you a life, would you walk into that courtroom and change everything?